Autumn, 1888. London's Whitechapel district is not a city, it is a wound. A square mile of fog, poverty, and desperation, home to 250,000 souls. And home to a new kind of terror. We call him Jack the Ripper. The name, born from a taunting letter, is the only solid thing he left behind. The rest is shadow. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly. The canonical five. These were not the Ripper's victims. They were his discards. The Victorian police were overwhelmed. They hunted for a monster, a madman. They looked for someone who looked evil. They interviewed hundreds, shadowed butchers and surgeons, and arrested no one. They failed. They failed because they lacked the single most important tool in modern policing. Not DNA. Not fingerprinting. They lacked a profile. For 130 years, the question has been, who was he? It is the wrong question. The right question, the modern question, is, what was he? To find the killer, we must stop thinking like Victorians and start thinking like profilers. We must throw away the myths, the gossip, and the legends and analyze the behavior. Let us build our unidentified subject, or UN sub. First, geographic profiling. The murder locations are not random. They form a tight, less than a square mile cluster. This is a classic marauder pattern. The killer operated within a comfort zone. He was not a gentleman from the West End. He was not a visiting sailor. He was a local. He lived or worked inside this circle. He walked home from the murders. Second, victimology. The victims were impoverished, alcoholic sex workers. This tells us the killer did not hunt them specifically. He hunted types. He hunted the vulnerable. He preyed on women who would willingly go into a dark alley with a stranger for the price of a drink. This was not a crime of passion. It was a crime of opportunity and power. Third, modus operandi and signature. The MO was the throat cutting. It was fast, efficient, and silenced the victim. The signature was the mutilation. This is where the Victorian police were most confused. They saw the mutilations as the work of a surgeon. A modern profiler sees the opposite. The cuts were brutal, disorganized. The UN sub was not a medical professional. He was a fantasist. The violence was sexual, but it was not social. He was likely isolated, incapable of normal human relationships. The profile is this: a white male, age 25 to 40, a local resident of Whitechapel, low class or working class, but with some form of menial employment that allowed him to move at night without suspicion. He was single. He was fueled by rejection. He was socially inadequate, sexually dysfunctional, and seething with rage he could only express on the most vulnerable women in his world. He was, in short, a complete and total nobody. Now, let us take this profile and lay it over history's top suspects. The historical lineup is long, but our profile eliminates most of them. Forget the painter, Walter Sickert. Forget the royal, Prince Albert Victor. These are high-status fantasies. Our UN sub was low status. Let us examine the three most plausible candidates through our modern lens. Druitt was a barrister and schoolteacher who committed suicide by drowning himself in the Thames in December 1888, shortly after the last murder. He was a favourite of Inspector Melville McNarton. But does he fit the profile? No. Druitt was educated, from a good family, and lived miles away. His motive was unclear. His suicide was likely linked to being fired from his job, not to guilt. Druitt is a Victorian fantasy of a gentleman killer. The profile rejects him. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish Jewish immigrant. He lived in the epicenter of the murder zone. He worked as a hairdresser. He was, by all accounts, mentally unstable, paranoid, and known to be a violent misogynist. Does he fit the profile? Yes. He is a local. He is low status. He is socially dysfunctional. He was committed to an asylum in 1891 and remained there until his death. He matches the disorganized, paranoid schizophrenic model. Chief Constable Melville McNarton and Inspector Donald Swanson, two of the highest-ranking officers on the case, both named Kosminski in their private notes. He is, perhaps, the most compelling suspect. But there is one more. This is the modern candidate, the one the Victorian police missed entirely. Charles Allen Lechmere was not a suspect, he was the witness who found the body of Mary Ann Nichols, the first victim. What was he? Modern analysis of the inquest record shows Lechmere was at the scene for at least 8 minutes before the second witness, Robert Paul, arrived. When Paul found him, Lechmere was standing over the body. He gave a false name, Charles Cross. He lived on the murder route. He was a delivery driver for the Pickford's company, meaning he walked those exact streets in the dark every single morning without suspicion. The profile, a local. Low status. Able to move freely at night. The behavior, he lies to the other witness. He lies to the police about his name and the time he was there. He was found at the body. Was Lechmere a ripper in the fantastical sense? A criminal mastermind? No. He fits the profile of an opportunistic, disorganized killer. A man filled with rage who, on his way to work, took his chance on a vulnerable woman in the dark. And perhaps he simply continued. We cannot, with 100% certainty, name the man. The physical evidence is gone forever. But the behavioral evidence is clear. The profile is clear. Jack the Ripper was not a doctor. He was not a prince. He was not a phantom. He was a man who lived among his victims. He passed them on the street. He drank in their same pubs. He was invisible to polite society, just as they were. The Great Terror of 1888 is not that a monster came to Whitechapel. The terror is that he was already there. A local man. An angry man. A nobody who, for one brief, terrible autumn, made the entire world know his name.